Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Christi Lukasiak. Thanks for joining me. So I'm not in my bedroom. I'm doing this video a little different today. I'm off to run errands, and I thought it would be kind of fun if I would break down what I think is really happening behind the scenes in season 2 of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I've been doing a whole series on my TikTok. If you're not following my TikTok, you definitely should check it out. And I was kind of giving you like my behind the scenes take on every episode. I will give you all of the basic behind the scenes from someone who can't watch reality. I can't watch reality because I know what's going on. Like every time I see something, I'm like, oh, producer set that up, or oh, that's an OTF, or this happened in an interview. I have a hard time watching it because it's sort of like I know the secrets. It's kind of like if you see Mickey Mouse walking around with his mask off. You know what I mean? Like that's how it feels. All right, I want to talk about the producers for a second because they were in there and they were dirty. Jessie is totally the Christi and Kelly of the cast, meaning that every time there's an event to be planned or a party to be had, Jessie's like, I booked us a trip. I got us a great place. We're going to a club. That was always Kelly and I. We were always like, hey, yeah, it's our big idea. We're having a birthday party at Kelly's house. Those weren't our ideas. Those were producers' ideas. But God bless Jessie. She plays the game. Layla, on the other hand, she needs to have a talk with her management and let them know to tell production that she cannot be production's go-to troublemaker. Anytime they have anything that's problematic, they're like, we'll get Layla to do it. The end scene with the guy from Vanderpump Villa, Layla's like, I will be here and I will ask the questions. Which, by the way, Marciano, is that his name? He was gross, being like, I like you in your mini skirt. Ew, stop. You're already like involved with 2 other cast members. Like, she's unavailable to you, Marciano. Ick. So they had Layla do pregnancy roulette. That was wild. I mean, Macy and Michaela, they knew they were pregnant. They knew that like they didn't want the whole group to know yet. And so they did them dirty. And that was also mean to do to me because obviously she had opened up about those issues. But I don't know, some producer was like licking their chops. They're like, we have the perfect game for these Mormons who always have babies. Which leads me to another question. I wonder if they have in their contracts, if they're pregnant during a season, if they get a bonus. I am not saying this to be like crass or problematic. I really do wonder if that is something that they get something special for, more screen time, because I mean they are at that point of their lives where they're having babies, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is something that's in their contracts. I don't know that to be true. I'm just saying I've seen weirder things in a contract. Whitney does a lot of pickups, which means they need somebody to thread the story together. So when she's in her interview, she will say things that production needs her to say in order to connect like scene A to scene B. And you can tell because they sort of sound canned, which she would probably hate because I know she's trying to be an actress, but I can tell that they're pickups. And there's also a few Franken bits I've noticed, not a lot though in this show. A Franken bit is when they take like a piece of something you said here and a piece of something you said here and like splice it together. I haven't got too many of those, but I'm sure there's more. I'm gonna tell you that show opener was filmed definitely halfway through the season, if not later. I promise you they hated all being together during that show opener. Tensions are running pretty high among the cast, and I have a lot of thoughts on why I feel that, but I promise you during that show opener they were all like, ooh, I hate this. I can't believe I have to stand next to her. I'm not holding her hand in an adoring Mormon way. No, thank you. That's my first take on that. Let's talk about the fact that it's season 2. I am going to tell you, I know for a fact that every single reality producer I have ever worked with has said to me, hands down, the worst season to ever produce of reality TV is season 2, is because the cast has seen themselves on TV. They have more self-awareness. They're not just being authentic to themselves. They're trying to like play whatever part they want to fulfill. With a cast like this, who is young, they're beautiful, they're getting brand deals, I promise you, they think they're superstars, which they are in their own right. Reality stars are superstars. I fully believe that. However, I'm willing to bet a lot of these girls are a little bit more difficult to produce, meaning they're like, I'm not doing that. I don't have to do that. So a producer has to work a little bit harder. The other thing you need to know is the whole mom talk thing. Mom talk is code for the show. We used to do it on Dance Moms all the time, where the ALDC, like people know us because we're famous on the internet. The ALDC is famous on the internet. No, girl, we were famous because we were on TV. This show's kind of crazy because they break the fourth wall a lot. And if you don't listen to Back to the Bar, which is my podcast that I do with Kelly, breaking the fourth wall means you are letting the audience know that you're on a show. What's interesting about season 2 of Mormon Wives is obviously they were having a lot of issues with contracts and some of the behind the scenes. So they go for it. They break the fourth wall. With the cast, it's interesting to me because there are clearly girls that are getting the hero edit no matter what. Don't come for me. I do not need the Taylor stance coming for me. I like Taylor. I do. I'm going to tell you this though. Taylor is problematic, but no one will ever cancel her or hate her because in the girls' minds, she holds the key to the kingdom because she's the star of the show. So they feel they're better aligned with Taylor than with Demi. Taylor's getting a hero edit, whether you realize it or not. And I clocked it the minute I saw it because every time Taylor goes to talk, there is sad or inspirational music behind her. You can take the same storyline with any of the girls and put different music and different cuts to it and you would hate her. I promise you, with some of Taylor's behavior, you would hate her if you weren't being like psychologically told that you like her. It's fine. It's part of being on TV, but I'm telling you, with everybody being so Team Taylor online, that's why. If you are not a regular cast member on the show, do not come for Taylor. They are never going to make her look stupid. Like the whole Halloween scene with Chase, him coming like, I brought receipts, this, that, and the other thing. Boy, they're never going to make her look dumb on TV, especially for a nobody like you. They're going to protect her at all costs. They're never going to make her look stupid. So if anybody from Utah gets a phone call that they want you to go fight with Taylor, the answer is no, unless you are a cast member. Then I would say do your job. Let's talk about the cast for a minute, shall we? New girl. I think it's Marissa. I guarantee you she was asked to be in season 1 and said no. That was Taylor who took liberties of like naming names and giving, you know, dates, times, receipts of all of those things. In her mind, she probably thought Taylor ruined her life. And then she saw season 1 of this show go off and they probably came back to her saying like, sure you don't want to be a part of it? We really want to talk about the swinger scandal. And she agreed for season 2. I know she was part of the original group. There's a few other people that were part of the original group. I guarantee you that's who they wanted. And then when those girls said no, they went to casting. And she was part of the original story that got the show sold. So they wanted her on the show. I get that she's not an OG and she wasn't there in season 1. However, none of you can talk about the swinger scandal, which everybody wants to talk about. So let's talk about that. You guys, according to like all of the evidence that I'm hearing, there really wasn't a swinger scandal. It sounds like a college party gone a little bit wild. That's what it sounds like. Instead of them just being couples in college, they were married couples and like a couple of girls kissed and there was a few like, I don't know, incidents. It wasn't like hardcore true swinging. Going back to season 2 and people having a lot of self-awareness. Whitney saw how she was portrayed on season 1 and she's like, nope, not doing it. So she came back with a vengeance to redeem herself. She's being like, I'm being so nice. She saw the backlash. She saw the hate. She's like, I'm not doing that again. That's why season 2 is hard to produce because everybody comes in with preconceived notions of who they want to be. I love all the scenes with the producers perpetuating old narratives or storylines from season 1 that got some traction. For instance, the ketamine scene. Last year, when I think it was Demi was like, yeah, and I did ketamine with Whitney, everyone was like, what? Because these are people who don't even drink coffee. And they're doing K, you know, it's like crazy. So the producers were like, we're gonna have somebody do ketamine on camera. Who better than Jen and Zach? Jen is the most Mormon and Zach, conservative Mormon husband. Let's have them do K. Crazy. Hold on, I'm gonna order my coffee because I'm not Mormon. Caffeine all the way. Can I please have a venti hot dirty chai with 1 shot of espresso and only 3 pumps of chai? And can you add cherry cold foam to the top, even though it's hot?
Yeah, no problem.
I really thought the cast had what was called favored nations, and favored nations is basically, it means that anybody who has like the same role on the show is going to get the same benefits and pay. For instance, like on Dance Moms, the moms would have all had favored nations. We did. That also doesn't just cover pay. That would cover like if you're flying and you want to fly first class, one person gets first class, they all get first class. It has to be equal across the board. Based on that conversation they had at dinner where they were talking about contract negotiations, they were trying to do the whole friends thing where back in the 90s, when Friends was like a hit show going into season 2, David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston, they had a breakout role on the show storyline because they were Ross and Rachel, meaning that they could have probably gone in and asked for more money because that storyline was what was driving people to watch. It was David Schwimmer, because his mom was an attorney, went to the cast and said, you know what, we do better if we all negotiate and we all stick together, all for one and one for all, because what happens is if one person makes more money, everybody else gets kind of mad and it creates conflict in the cast. I think that is happening with this group. I think some are being paid more than the others, which is fine. Housewives do it that way. However, nobody was showing up as a star already. Like Housewives, you have people that are well-known celebrities going on that show, which gives them room to negotiate. These girls are all just like everyday people from a town in Utah. I'm shocked that they, I would guess, are all being paid something different, which also makes sense if you see how people are stepping up and really trying to be sensational and drive like big storylines around them because they know they're going to get paid more. I have no idea if anything I'm saying is in fact a fact or true. I'm just telling you what my perception is based on what I know. The husbands tell production, we don't care about the husbands. I don't know if you care. I don't care. I find the husbands and the boyfriends to be irritating. Please stop with the dad talk. It's making us all feel ick. I think back to Dance Moms and they would be like, we're gonna have the dads come in, and every dad would be like, not doing it. Could you imagine our dads doing dad talk? No. Back in the day, it was irritating because it was like, well, why can't you just be on camera for a minute? Now I respect them so much more that you barely saw the dads on Dance Moms, because these guys are just not it for me. All right, we're gonna run into Home Goods. You can come with me. Look at this peacock. That's like a very aggressive peacock lamp. I have a peacock lamp actually. It doesn't look like that though. But I did find a really cute fan for Chloe's room. So I got Chloe a vintage fan for her room. Pretty, right? Yeah. I think it's really cute. So we found one thing we needed. One. We are off to pick up Clara. I want to talk for a moment about Taylor's mom. First of all, the woman had a head transplant. I had a hard time even figuring out that was her. Every time she was on scene, I'm like, wait, who is that again? I look different than when I was on TV. I don't look that different. I mean, she looks insanely different. It's like she took a picture of Taylor to the plastic surgeon and she said, copy and paste. I get it. We all want to look younger, but then when she showed up in army pants and flip-flops because she saw Katie Heron wearing army pants and flip-flops, I was like, okay, there's too much happening here. So then the other thing about Taylor's mom, it's all these people on the show that want to be on the show like stars, like the girls. And then we have Taylor's mom who's like, I am going to be on camera as much as humanly possible. And she's also inserting herself like dead smack in the middle of the drama. She did it with Whitney in the baby shower last season, which I was like, I didn't love that. But then when she showed up at the Christmas party, do I think Demi was out of line? 100% she was out of line. However, keep in mind, Demi is doing her job. Her job is to fight and argue and assume a position on a reality show. So that brings me to the whole Demi is now a villain, like the Demi versus Taylor thing. I think that Demi definitely was a fan favorite last season. When you listen to what she said, she didn't say I was the fan favorite. She said I was a fan favorite. And she's not wrong. Where I think she went off the rails is she said problematic things. Look, I said problematic things. I get it. She's frustrated. However, she's going against Taylor, who is the fan favorite, and everybody else is falling in line, like bowing at the altar of Taylor in the cast. But what they're forgetting is they are an ensemble cast. You need all of them to make that show work. Now, could you put different new people in? Sure. However, and we know from watching Dance Moms, when you start messing with the cast and putting new people in, it never has the same chemistry. They have a great thing going. They're the #1 show on Hulu. The problem is they're letting Taylor get away with a lot of things I think that they would normally call her out on because they're afraid that she's gonna go online and get the fans against them, which she did at the Country Music Awards thing. Was it petty? Of course it was. Did she take ownership and responsibility? Yeah, she did. But she's also smart. She knows that if she goes online, she's gonna piss off those fans and they're gonna go after those girls. That's not very cool. That's not using your power benevolently. It's just not. So I think everybody saw the fans coming for them and they were like, whoa, like we're Team Taylor, where Demi was like, screw that, I'm gonna say my piece. Do I side with Demi? No, but I also don't think that there is a black and white, a right and wrong. I think we have all been manipulated by whatever story the producers want us to believe. I know this because I live this. I also, speaking of the cast being frustrated, completely get where Michaela was coming from. Taylor had her meltdown about nobody commenting on the Country Music Awards post, but they were all communicating with her personally and privately, like they were texting her, and she's like, well, you didn't put it out there in public. And Michaela was the one who said not everything has to be public in order for it to be real, and I couldn't agree with that more. These girls are living their life online and now they are part of a reality show. I can tell you that the people who I am closest to, who I care about most in my life, 9 times out of 10 I don't post things about them, because to me social media is my job. To me, it feels more personal to sometimes keep things close to the vest and do them offline. If you live in the public eye, it starts to feel like the most authentic things happen offline. You don't have to share everything online, and these girls are sharing a lot. Taylor acts before she thinks, and she knows that if she goes out there and she says something, the fans are gonna come for them. And I think that that ultimately was what Demi was mad about, because she's like, hold on, you're making us into the bad guy. Then she went off the rails and did a million things that I totally disagree with online. Like, she came for people, completely don't agree with that, but there are little seedlings of things that I think made sense if you're looking at it from a different perspective. Speaking of people who were looking for a redemption arc this season, I think Zach saw how he was portrayed on TV and was like, nope, and he went back and he was going for the redemption arc. Maybe he and Whitney got on a call and they were like, listen, we have to redeem ourselves, because when those two filmed scenes together, they were like, we love each other, everything is great. I swear. Did he redeem himself? Sure, of course he did. He like monitored everything that came out of his mouth. Do I think all of that is completely authentic? I don't. I think we saw a lot of his true colors, but you know what? I'm watching it as a viewer, so I can only go by what I see. Here's probably the hottest tea that I can tell you about the show. I know for a fact, without a doubt, going into season 2, you are not allowed to talk about any alleged adulterous situations with anybody on Vanderpump Villa. I know that because I have friends who did ads for Hulu, and it was specifically spelled out in the briefs that you were not allowed to talk about that. I mean, we all heard that Demi is doing cease and desist. I don't know if they're production, they are playing everything close to the chest, because there's going to be an even bigger reveal than what happened with Jesse at the end of season 2. But I know that they did not want that talked about, so I'm curious to see where that goes. Jen, to me, was really hard to watch this season because she was really going through it. I mean, I know exactly what she was going through, because she wants to be on the show. She wants to be part of Mom Talk, and she is being pulled in 17 different directions behind the scenes. I don't think Jen is crazy when they're like, she's crazy. I don't think she's a troublemaker. I think what Jen does is she's a people pleaser. She says what one person wants to them in scene, and I don't mean like actually in scene. I mean like when she's face to face with one person, I think she says something, and then she turns around and she says something different to someone else, not because she's trying to be malicious. I think she just tells people what they want to hear. So I think she got herself in some trouble in season 1, and then coupled with the pregnancy in season 2, and then people starting to call her fake, I just don't think she could handle it. So I'm glad that she was able to take that time off and get the help that she needed. We never were given the same consideration. Some of us had health issues. Even when the kids would get sick, we still had to film. So I'm glad that they allowed her to stop that. I guess my biggest takeaways are, I know they're already almost finished with production for season 3, so that should be coming out. I'm gonna say that one's gonna come out in the fall, I'm guessing. I mean, it could even come out in the summer. I'm sure they have a tight turnaround. I mean, we would film episodes and 6 weeks later they would be on air. So I think we're gonna get season 3 soon. Let me know if you guys liked all of my behind the scene takes on this one and what show I should do next. And don't forget to check out Back to the Bar, because we do this literally every single week for Dance Moms. Here comes Clara's bus. Leave a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my takes on everything that you saw. Again, I'm watching it from a totally different perspective because I've lived reality, so I kind of know the manipulation. But I would love to hear as a watcher how you felt and who was your favorite mom. All right, see you guys next week. Bye.